You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, this is Kate Lister from Betwixt the Sheets, and you are listening to Queen's Podcast. Katy and Nathan have asked me to jump in here to let you know that they do use explicit language on this show. And if that's not for you, if you're of a sensitive disposition, consider this your warning to get out now while you still can. And don't be listening and then writing anybody angry letters, because fair dues, we did tell you. But if you do like offensive material, and if you do like to be shocked, then why don't you head over to our show as well and listen to Betwixt the Sheets, the history of sex, scandal and society, for all things historically smutty.
Hi, this is Katie.
And this is Nathan.
And you're listening to Queen's Podcast, the show about women in history. Well, hello, Nathan.
Hey, Katie. How are you?
I'm good. It's the first of the month. We're recording this on March 1st, so it's officially my birthday month. So,
well, look at you.
And we're celebrating by taking it back to the old school, the real ye old times.
Yeah, real old school.
Yeah. Nathan, if somebody hasn't read the title of this episode and just started listening, who are we talking about today?
Isabella of Angoulême.
Oh, yes. She was a controversial queen of England who did not shy away from a little bit of chaos. Mm-hmm. But before we get into her, Nathan, tell us about this cocktail.
So this cocktail is called the Jezebel, and it came from my own brain.
It's a Nathan Foster original?
Yes, it is.
I love it.
I took some gin. It's about 1.5 ounces of gin. And then I got some pineapple juice that I ended up scoring a jalapeno and putting the jalapeno inside of the pineapple juice and letting it sit for a few hours.
Spicy.
Yeah, but if you don't like spicy, you could easily cut the jalapeno in half, scoop out the seeds, and then put it in there so it wouldn't be near as spicy.
But still have that flavor.
But still have the flavor of the jalapeno, because I just feel like she was a little chaos goblin.
She was a little spicy. Yeah.
And I also thought she's laid back with her mind on her money and her money on her mind, sipping on gin and juice.
Yes.
So that's that. And then so I did that, pineapple juice, about 3 ounces of that, and then put a splash of pear juice in it. And I must say, Queens, this is one of my favorite drinks that I've made, because it's got that nice kick of the gin, it's got a little kick of the jalapeno, but the sweetness of the pear and the pineapple really like cools it down a little bit and makes it a little more fruity, so it's delicious.
Well, this is very creative, and we are honored to have a Nathan Foster one of a kind. Yes, original. Indeed. Before we get started, we're going to get to our story in just a second, but we have some Patreon shout outs to give. We love our Patreon supporters, so thank you so much for supporting the show, to Terry, Cassie, and Susan.
Also to Hannah, Laura, and Antoinette.
Ooh, well, and you know what? Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Yes. Old and new, and even if you're not in the super nerd club of Patreon with us, still, thank you for listening. We love you all.
Yes, we do. So let's get started, shall we?
Yes, let's.
So Isabella of Angoulême was born sometime between 1186 and 1188. And though that's only a 2-year difference, it might be important later, so put a pin in it.
Yes, we're gonna have some logistical questions about her birth, but she was the only legitimate child of the Count of Angoulême and his wife Alice. Like, both of her parents are from like really, really well-connected families. On her mom's side, she's related to the French kings and stuff like that. So we're not gonna dive into a medieval family tree here, because it's confusing and it's a circle. But what you need to know is her blood is aggressively blue.
Mm-hmm. And Angoulême was in what is now known as southern France, inside the Duchy of Aquitaine.
Aquitaine. Does that sound familiar, Nathan?
Eleanor, ring a bell?
Eleanor. Yes. Okay, just some real quick setting for like some groundwork, because the way these territories were set up is confusing, but it is relevant to Isabella's story.
Okay.
So, Aquitaine, think of that as like the state that Angoulême is in.
Okay.
But then that state is still part of France, you know, like the greater. But at this time, the kings of England are the Duke of Aquitaine.
Okay, got it.
So it's kind of like her dad is like the mayor of Angoulême, and Angoulême sits in Aquitaine, and the king of England is like the governor of Aquitaine.
Hello, governor.
Hello, governor.
So technically,
My husband loves when I do that, let me tell you.
Technically, Isabella's family were vassals of the English crown, but Angoulême sat in a strategically messy position between English and French interests. Her father had to constantly balance both of the kings.
That stresses me out. Oh, that stresses me out. No, thank you. Okay, so now let's talk Isabella. We've set up the scene for like diplomacy, but when it comes to her childhood, we just really don't know that much. We see that a lot on this show.
Yeah.
Where just they didn't document much about her childhood. We know she had 2 older half-brothers. Her mom had a previous marriage.
Okay.
So she had 2 older half-brothers from that. But, like, I don't know if she was even raised around her brothers. We don't know, like, what her education... We have to assume she had an education because we know she was literate. But besides that, like, we don't know what she was like as a kid, what her family dynamics were.
But we do know that she was hot.
Oh, okay. Let's backtrack that. When... You mean she grew up to be really beautiful? She was hot when she was an adult?
Nope. This is going to get icky. We know that ever since she was a young child, everybody was like, oh my God, that baby is so hot.
What a thing to say. I hate it here.
But because she's a girl from a well-connected family, we know that from the moment she was born, she was on the marriage market, right? Because of course she had to be.
Of course she was.
And at a very, very young age, maybe as young as 10, she was engaged to this guy named Hugh of Lusenia. And Hugh was a widower in his 30s who actually already had children that were older than Izzy.
Yes, that is gross. Now, today we look at that and we go, gross, because...
It is.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, this just wasn't strange for noble families because it's like they've got a lot riding on this marriage agreement.
Mm-hmm. Long and confusing story short, Lusenia's family were often causing trouble for the Count of Angoulême, and they were starting uprisings. So it was like, okay, let's join our 2 houses, and then you'll get all this dowry and prestige, and you'll stop being a pain in the ass to us.
So the contract was signed, and like a betrothal contract. In medieval terms, a signed betrothal contract carried heavy legal weight. Okay. So even though they hadn't gone in front of the priest and said, I do yet, a betrothal contract was legally binding. And literally the only reason they hadn't gotten married yet is because Isabella wasn't old enough.
The legal age of marriage for girls at the time was 12.
Gross.
Yeah. Their contract was drafted up in 1199, and looking at the years that we think she may have been born, it's very, very likely that Isabella was only 11.
So her future seems sealed until King John of England enters the chat.
Okay, who is John of England?
He's a piece of shit, is what he is.
Okay, but in the context of this history, he's the King of England and he's the Duke of Aquitaine. So again, he's basically like their landlord.
But from a historical context, John is not remembered kindly. You might know him as the bad guy in every Robin Hood movie, like the cartoon one that we grew up with. Do you remember? He was the lion that the crown was too big for him and all that stuff. He's a piece of shit. Did you know? I don't know if this is true, but you know how sometimes we call toilets Johns? Mm-hmm. That supposedly comes from this guy.
Oh, wow.
He'd only been king for like a year, but he was already super unpopular. And he may have ordered the murder of his nephew, Arthur Brittany. And he was just a shit starter. And he was always starting shit with France. He was always pissing off his own guys in England. Just not a fun guy.
No. And while traveling through Aquitaine in 1200, John encountered Isabella. And the romantic version says that he was instantly captivated with this 11-year-old girl and stole her from her fiance.
The political version, which is probably more likely, is that John didn't want Angoulême and the Lusignas intermixing. The family, the Lusignas, were powerful, and if we're saying this wrong, sorry to all the lasagnas out there. The lasagnas were powerful and unpredictable. But no, marrying Isabella himself kind of neutralized them. And because he was like, well, if these two powerful families get married, it's going to give me less pull and less control of my estates, basically. So what is way more likely than this meet cute that some people like to paint it as is that John went to Isabella's dad and was like, all right, so would you rather your daughter be a countess or a queen?
And either way, on August 24th of 1200, the 33-year-old King of England married at best a 12-year-old Isabella of Angoulême. And chaos followed.
I don't know about you, but I like keeping my money where I can see it. Unfortunately, big wireless carriers also seem to like keeping my money. After years of overpaying for wireless with crazy high bills, random fees, and quote-unquote free perks that weren't actually free, I finally switched to Mint Mobile. Mint exists to fix that whole "that's just how it's always been" thing with phone plans. They offer premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can bring your own phone and number, activate an eSIM in minutes, and start saving immediately. No long-term contracts, no hassle. This service has been just as reliable as my old provider, but I'm paying way less every month, so I have more money for brunch. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/queens. That's mintmobile.com/queens. Upfront payment of $45, 3-month, 5GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for the first 3 months only. Then full price plans available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Disney Plus wants to know, are you ready? Yes! For Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, The New Avengers. Now streaming on Disney Plus.
Let's do this.
One of the best Marvel movies of all time is now streaming on Disney Plus.
Hey, you weren't listening to me.
I said Thunderbolts, The New Avengers is now streaming on Disney Plus.
Meet the New Avengers.
That's cool name.
Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, The New Avengers. Rated PG-13. Now streaming on, you guessed it, Disney Plus.
Ugh. So the lasagnas, they were furious. They're big mad. And they're already known to do rebellions and be just a little bit unpredictable. Isabella's jilted husband was furious, and the family feeling slighted out of money, out of status. And they're also humiliated. Who does this guy think he is, coming in and stealing our property? Blah. But so Hugh petitioned to the King of France. Just basically went to the King of France and was like, fucking do something, bro.
And Philip, the King of France, was like, ugh, what now? John, you need to come to Paris and explain yourself. And John was like, no thanks, I'm good.
I'm good. I'd rather not.
And Philip used that refusal as justification to confiscate John's French lands, which means now we're at war.
Now we're at war. Because it wasn't just Aquitaine. The kings of France were also the dukes of Normandy. Do you remember when we covered, what was her name? Emma? Was it Emma of Normandy? And so the kings of England also owned Normandy. And so this is the king of France being like, we're going to get back Aquitaine and we're going to get back Normandy, which were two huge pieces of income for England, you know. By 1204, John had lost Normandy. And this was a catastrophic loss for the English crowns. It crippled royal prestige and the finances and like the treasury of England, really.
Yeah. And now what role did Isabella actually have in any of this? None.
The 12-year-old? The
Yeah,
12-year-old didn't actually have anything to do with it? Go on.
Yeah, she was a child who had no say in this. But did people see it that way? Nope.
Chroniclers at the time started comparing her to Helen of Troy, which is really annoying because what's actually happening is a king ignored feudal law, a powerful family felt publicly humiliated, and the king of France seized the opportunity to take back the lands he's been wanting for years anyway.
But that's so boring. What sells is pretty teenager destroys an empire. You know, because misogyny.
Misogyny, yeah. So by the time they arrive in England for Isabella's coronation, John's marriage to Isabella was already considered like really, really unpopular. Or she personally was really, really unpopular. And their marriage, like a year or so into his reign, marked the start of John's downfall in the public eye. And like we said, he's still often, if you Google like worst king of all time, John of England is probably going to be the first thing that comes up. This marriage is what ushered in that reputation.
And it didn't help that John did not immediately establish her as a traditional queen. So usually a queen would then get an income and ladies in waiting and maybe even her own household. But something we're about to learn about John is he's a cheap ass.
Cheap ass.
Yeah, and those things all cost money. So he's like, she's a child. She doesn't need all those things. And basically just packs her away until she's old enough to start being his baby-making machine because what?
Yep. Now, where he packs her away to is kind of insane. Like, he basically puts her in the household of, like, rich people throughout the country. Kind of like in our Mary Queen of Scots episode.
Yeah.
Remember when she was in prison and she kind of just got passed around? So that's what he did with her. One of the women that he put her with was, like, one of his mistresses for a while.
Wow.
But the most noteworthy one, so John had been married before. When John was really young, he was married to his first cousin called Isabella of Gloucester. He hated being married to her. The feeling for her was mutual. So they had gotten a divorce when he became king, but he kept all her money and kind of kept her as like a prisoner. And so when he gets there with his baby wife, he's like, I'm just gonna pawn her off to my ex-wife. And was just like, here's my baby wife. If you could watch her until she's old enough to start being a grown-up wife. Thanks. Peace.
Gosh, what a dick.
I know.
And even if Isabella of Angoulême didn't consider this any kind of insult, you know, just because she was so young, John's first wife probably did consider this a bit of a public humiliation.
Right. I have a Patreon Katie's Corner episode from like 3 or 4 years ago on Isabella of Gloucester. So if anybody wants to learn more about her, I'll drop a link to that episode in the show notes.
Ooh. But now let's fast forward to when Izzy was about 16 and she joins John at court in a much more traditional way. And immediately there are red flags going up. For instance, her father died in 1202. So Isabella became Countess of Angoulême in her own right. So she would have been getting a significant amount of income from that. And John kept it.
Ugh.
I don't think in John's lifetime did he ever give her the reins to what her father had clearly intended for his daughter.
Right.
For their whole marriage, even after she was a full-ass adult, he never gave her any of the money, lands, freedom, none of it that a queen usually got.
Yeah, traditionally, queens had a lot more financial freedom than this. Like, they would get money from, like, I think John's mom, Eleanor of Aquitaine, when she died, even left a bunch of land to Isabella to fund her own household. And John just never gave her that either. So usually queens would have their own incomes from lands or something so they could hire their own ladies in waiting. If they need new furniture for their house, just get, whatever they needed. Basically now, anytime she wanted anything, she had to send John a Venmo request. And so this was viewed as very controlling behavior on John's part.
Yeah, I think that's important to mention, not just her money, but her too.
Right.
If we can believe the chroniclers of the time, John was obsessed with Isabella once she was grown up. He kept tabs on her every move, so controlling her money is one way to do that. Mm-hmm. There are even some stories of him having Izzy locked up when he went out of town. But we're not sure if that's a fact or just part of this lore around his just terrible reputation.
Yeah, just locking her up in her rooms. Who knows? So either way, Isabella and John had a famously tumultuous marriage. And Isabella has gone down in history as being basically a loud, sassy bitch.
Yes.
Like outspoken, difficult. Yes, which we love
this.
here at Queen's Podcast. We have a saying here, big sexy mouth. And she definitely falls into the big sexy mouth category. I'm picturing hot, iconic, probably correct when fighting against John.
Yeah, touche. But for the medieval world queen, she's supposed to be pious, gentle, soft, not starting fights with her husband. Opinionated was not in this job description.
But we also have to remember how deeply unpopular she was with the people of England. So they may have been describing her that way because you can talk shit on the queen, you can't talk shit on the king.
Yeah.
So they're just like doubling their frustration to take it out on her.
But whatever their private dynamics were, they clearly reconciled enough to produce 5 children. And in a world where producing a male heir was the ultimate measure of a queen's success, Isabella delivers.
Oh.
Literally. Right out of the gate, her first child is a healthy baby boy. Baby boy,
you've been on my mind. Fulfill my regency. Yes. Take that, haters. In October 1207, she gives birth to a boy they name Henry, and he's the future Henry III of England. In a reign completely plagued by instability and just a whole bunch of bullshittery, giving the country, a male heir was stabilizing a dynasty. Mm-hmm. So public hostility towards Isabel softened, but it never disappeared.
Despite her having an heir, a spare, and then 3 healthy daughters, her role in the public as trash was kind of already cemented.
One chronicler, and this monk named Matthew Paris, who wrote decades after Isabella died, but he wrote her as more Jezebel than Isabel.
Monks got jokes.
Monks got jokes. Haha, so clever. He went on to accuse her of witchcraft, having sex with her half-brother, and just slutting it up all over the place.
So basically like a greatest hits of accusations for our unpopular queens.
Yeah. But here's something really fucked up. In 1214, 14 years after they were married, the battles in France over the English-France territory finally came to an end, and that's when England was sort of like, okay, we have formally lost Normandy.
And John's reputation, in the gutter. Now, do we have a formal royal speech where he stands up and says, actually, this is my child bride's fault? No. But later historians do suggest that John ended up blaming Isabella for all of this. Like, maybe she did some witchcraft on him when they first met, because why else would he have been so reckless to start this battle to begin with?
Sir! She was a child.
I
and
know.
You were firmly in your 30s. Like, what the fuck?
The sexy baby made me do an imperial collapse. Oh, fuck this guy.
Fuck this guy. Oh my god. But whatever the cause of him losing Normandy, John's barons were pissed. Years of heavy taxation, failed wars, and like it just all came to a head. And in 1215, the barons seized London and forced John to agree to signing the Magna Carta.
Now, we could spend a whole episode on the Magna Carta, what led to it, and the political, historical importance, but we're not gonna. Instead, let's do a TLDR on this and how it affected Isabella.
Yeah. So the Magna Carta was a document that John signed that limited the power of the king, like, significantly, and established that even though he was king, he was still subject to the law. Mm-hmm. And this is huge. The Magna Carta is still considered to this day one of the most monumental legal documents, and it's kind of like the foundation of modern constitutional law in most of the English-speaking world.
John signed it, but then immediately was like, psych! And tried to get out of it. And now we're at a civil war. And the barons are inviting the prince in France to come on into England and take that crown.
Now, where was Isabella during all this?
Hiding in some castle 2 seconds from a medieval nervous breakdown?
I mean, probably. That's a very solid guess, because we don't actually know. You know what it made me think of? Do you remember in our Catherine Parr episode when her second husband, like, joined the rebellion? They came and, like, took her hostage so her second husband would join the rebellion for the Pilgrimage of Grace. I was real nervous for her that she was going to be in, like, a hostage situation. But like, as far as we can tell, that didn't happen, which is good, because in medieval times, I mean, they don't say go medieval for nothing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, she was probably really, really worried about getting taken as a hostage and, like, having her kids hurt, you know?
But thank God that is not the story here.
Right.
And to make things even more wild during this clusterfuck of a reign, John gets on the Oregon Trail and dies of dysentery while he's fighting off his barons.
How, you know what? Typical fucking John. He can't even finish a war with his barons. He decides, you know what? I'm just going to die instead. Fuck this guy. But just like that, Isabella was no longer queen consort. She's 28-ish, and she's a widow with a 9-year-old son who's got to get crowned king.
Did archaeologists discover Noah's Ark?
Is the rapture coming as soon as the Euphrates River dries up?
Does the Bible condemn abortion?
Don't you wish you had a trustworthy academic resource to help make sense of all of this?
Well, I'm Dan Beecher, and he's award-winning Bible scholar and TikTok sensation Dr. Dan McClellan, and we want to invite you to the Data Over Dogma podcast,
where our mission is to increase public access to the academic study of the Bible and religion, and also to combat the spread of misinformation about the same.
But, you know, in a fun way.
Every week we tackle fascinating topics, we go back to source materials in their original languages,
and we interview top scholars in the field.
So whether you're a devout believer,
or you're just interested in a clear-eyed, deeply informed look at one of the most influential books of all time,
we think you're going to love the Data Over Dogma podcast.
Wherever you subscribe to awesome shows.
And I think that's a great place for us to stop and go top up our drinks.
Take a little break. We will be right back.
after John's death, Izzy may have been spiraling a little because there's literally a civil war going on and the French prince is on his way over. And then she's got to get her 9-year-old son, Henry, crowned. And if they don't move fast, you bet your ass the French king will happily still take those reins.
So in a very rushed and simple ceremony in October 28th, 1216, baby Henry was crowned King Henry III of England. I personally think that's too much responsibility for a 9-year-old, but what do I know?
Because babies don't need jobs.
Babies don't need jobs. But Isabella, she wasn't there, which is shocking because she's the mother of the king. But in the rush to get him to his coronation and get him like firmly placed on the throne, nobody stopped by to give Izzy a ride.
So we've talked about this a lot on our show, that when a baby gets a really important job, like King of England, there is a regency put in place. And we've also mentioned tons of times that the mother of the baby king is often given some kind of seat at the table. But ho-ho, not Isabella.
This new Regency Council is in damage control. I mean, I would hope so. After the clusterfuck of John, they're like, oh, we gotta put shit right. We gotta completely reorganize everything. Honestly, remember, Isabella's not popular. So the dudes are like, hey, if you could just disappear, that would actually be amazing PR for your son.
Yeah. We don't know for sure, but Isabella probably felt super insulted by this. What do you mean? You just want me to disappear?
Like, yeah.
Fine. You know what? I'm still the Countess of Angoulême in my own right. I'm gonna go home. And that's what she did.
Packed her bags. Now, we need to stop and mention that another thing that tarnished Isabella's reputation for centuries is that she's considered a neglectful mother, because she doesn't take her kids with her back to Angoulême. They are between ages 9 and 1. So, like, her youngest kid was basically a newborn, you know? And when she went back to France, she couldn't take them with her. And she just didn't play a huge role in these kids' lives. But in her defense, I will say, when John was alive, she didn't exactly get to move in life with a lot of freedom anyway. So, I mean, as soon as they were born, they were put into wardships with other
people. Yeah, so she's just, this is normal to her.
Yeah.
So they were placed in noble households, her kids, to get their education, and you've already seen how little agency she had in running her own household. Do you think she's gonna get a say in the lives of future kings and queens?
Right?
And why do you think that would be any different after John's death? This regency has made it clear she does not get a seat at the table. Why would they suddenly just let her be a part of her kids' lives?
Yeah, could you imagine if she tried to take, obviously not the king, but all the king's like little brothers and sisters, like, okay, I'm taking them to France to raise them. The regency wouldn't have let her, you know? So she leaves, but I don't see it as like she abandons her babies, but more like just being pragmatic. Like, what is left for me in England?
Yeah.
They're probably not going to let me be a big part of their lives anyway.
She's still young. She's only around 28 years old. Her life in England would have been monitored heavily. And oh yeah, everyone hates her.
I'd probably skedaddle too. So she's back in Angoulême, and not much has changed. The Louisians were still there and still wanted power and are still starting a little shit and baking their lasagnas and except Hugh. So her original fiance, Hugh, he's dead and gone at this point. So the guy in charge of their lands is also named Hugh.
Oh.
So this is the guy's son, and he is now in charge.
At this time, new Hugh, who is only like 5 years older than Izzy, was engaged to Isabella's daughter, Joan, who would have been like 8 or 9 at the time. Ugh.
It's the circle of bullshit.
And the way Isabella would tell this story is that new Hugh, or Hugh the 10th, came up to her and was like, hey, I don't feel like waiting for like 10 years or whatever to have an heir, so I want to break off this engagement. I don't care if that's a fuck you to the King of England. Who cares?
Yeah. Now, others have told this story differently. Some say that new Hugh came to greet her when she arrived back home and saw her and was just like immediately stricken by how hot she was. Some say that when Isabella saw him, she was also like, oh, who is that coming up? Hello.
Which is wild to think about because in another timeline, she was supposed to be this guy's stepmom.
You know, I feel like there is so much more noble families from most of history and, marrying their aunts and uncles and stuff like that. Like, it just feels like Jerry Springer or something.
It does. It does.
Like some wild tagline that's like,
I'm in love with my stepmom.
Yes. Either way, on May 10th, 1220, Isabella, Dowager Queen of England and Countess of Angoulême, married Hugh, the 10th of Lusignan. And it was a scandal.
And this means our girl is 2 for 2 on scandalous marriages. She writes to her son and explains that she only did it to save England from being insulted by Hugh breaking off the engagement to Joan, but I don't know. These two certainly didn't act like a marriage of convenience because Izzy would go on to have 9 children.
9 more. So she has 14 kids altogether. Ooh. She had 9 children with him and 5 with John. And don't feel too bad for Joan. She goes on to be Queen of Scotland, so...
Mm-hmm. But the Dowager Queen was not legally allowed to marry without the Regency Council's approval. But Isabella was like, well, I'm not in England, so suck it.
Suck it!
Rules don't apply to me. Also, we have nothing that remains to indicate that Hugh was hot or not, but it definitely seems like he had some big dick energy. But in my head, they are both super hot and hot for each other and can't keep their hands off each other. But no facts, just vibes. And, well, facts are 9 children.
9 children, so now, after the marriage, there's nothing huge to cover over the next few years. The only really noteworthy thing, besides her having so many babies, she was a fertile myrtle, is that France and England did their favorite thing over the next decade or so, and that is fight each other. For spite, it's just their favorite pastime. And Izzy and Hugh change sides often. I mean, yes, she's a French countess, but she's the mother of the King of England. So that puts them in a really tricky position because it's like you got to keep your people at home happy. But then, of course, you're going to have loyalty to your own fucking son, you know? Because of that, because of them constantly changing sides, basically just depending on what that specific battle was about, it caused a lot of people on both sides to view her and Hugh as not trustworthy.
Well, I mean, it makes sense.
It's a tricky situation.
The English are basically like, the Dowager Queen is such a pain in the ass. And the French are like, we can't fully trust this family. So it's lose-lose.
Right. Oh, and Isabella and the Dowager Queen of France, Blanche, hate each other.
Ooh.
Yeah. Blanche described Isabella as vain and troublesome. And Izzy was like, that queen gets way too excited when the French go and start shit with my son. So it's, but Isabella's very, and since we don't have any personal writings of hers saved or anything, this is kind of speculation, but don't you get the vibe that she's a very proud woman?
Yes, very.
So she's probably looking at the Dowager Queen being like, you're no better than me. I'm also a Dowager Queen.
So suck it. Again.
Suck it!
But now we must fast forward again. And the year is 1241. Isabella is in her 50s, and the King of France is Louis IX. King Louis is like, hey, I'm going to grant a bunch of these lands to my brother, which puts the lasagnas under his control. So I need new Hugh and all his sons to come here and swear fealty to him.
This rubbed Izzy the wrong way. And I mean, it rubbed her whole family the wrong way because it was taking some inheritance out of her son's pocket. I don't know where inheritances lives. So it was rubbing her the wrong way, but they went and did what they were told to do. And the Dowager Queen Blanche openly snubs Izzy in front of everybody. Like, doesn't acknowledge her, does not acknowledge her as the rights of being like a Dowager Queen. It would have been like very, not one of these like, oh, I'm sorry, my bad, I didn't see you there. This was intentional. Like, Blanche snubs her. And the story goes that after that, Izzy was like, hey, Hugh, I don't want to swear fealty to the king's brother anymore. But Hugh is sort of also like, what the fuck is he supposed to do? So he does it anyway.
So when Isabella got home afterwards, she was so pissed that she moved all the furniture out of Hugh's castle and into her own palace in Angoulême.
Like, I'm imagining, like, she rushes home. This is just how it played out in my mind's eye. Like, she rushes home before him and then, like, gets the movers. And then he comes home and is just like, the fuck? Like,
I mean, can you imagine being him and coming home with no furniture in the house? It's kind of iconic.
We've been robbed. Wait, where's my wife?
But what she did next is less great.
Yeah. So she goes to Hugh and her sons and is like, basically, like, is telling them how the king is fucking them over. You know, like, y'all need to rebel. And it wasn't just because of the Dowager Queen snub, which is how some people like to paint it, but because of all of these confusing dynamics and like ye old timey inheritances, blah, 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 her sons were, getting their inheritance taken away from them. So in 1241, we have the Louisiane Rebellion, and it went poorly. It was not a success. Not a success, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, if you go digging around on Isabella of Angoulême, you might come across a story that during this rebellion, she tried to poison the King of France. And this is likely just the medieval gossip machine going into overdrive.
But it stuck around because, I mean, it's on her Wikipedia page. I had to do, like, so much digging to be like, what? Did this actually happen? It seems like this story didn't come up until years later. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I wish I could tell you that she did that. I wish I could tell you that she tried to poison the king for no other reason than it would just be a fun story to add into here.
Yeah.
But it seems to be a made-up story told, like, a couple of decades after her death, to cement her reputation as just a chaos goblin, basically.
And we've seen that too. Like, we've seen that so many times.
Yes.
Anyway, the rebellion was crushed immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah. And instead of living with that humiliation, Izzy was like, well, you know what? I'm done here. And she retired to an abbey to live out the rest of her life.
Some say that's where the rumor of her poisoning the kings comes from. Like, if you look on her Wikipedia page, it says that 2 cooks got arrested for trying to poison the king. And then when they were like, who put you up to this? They were like, Isabella of Angoulême. And then when she found out that the plot had been figured out, she skedaddled to an abbey before they could arrest her. But again, we love the drama. But it's probably almost certainly not true because, it's not in any of the records until way after her death.
And Izzy ends up retiring to this abbey for the rest of her life, which is only 2 years. And a lot of people look at this like she was disgraced and running from facing this crime that she had done. But I don't know. Maybe she was just tired. And it seemed no matter what she does, everybody's just gonna hate her. I mean, ever since she was 11 years old. So, I mean, fuck it. I would go to an abbey.
Yeah. She get to chill. She like just get to go chill. It was also the abbey that her mother-in-law, Eleanor of Aquitaine, had retired to and died at. So this isn't like just some random abbey that she rushed to because it was the first one she could find. Like, this was deliberate. This was like probably a place she already had plans to go to anyway. It's the Plantagenet nursing home for dowager queens, I guess.
Isabella of Angoulême died 2 years later when she was either in her late 50s, maybe in her early 60s, and was buried with the other Plantagenet royalty in the abbey that she died in.
Isabella's entire life had been defined by how other people described her. She was labeled as a beautiful face that caused a war, a difficult wife, a Jezebel, a neglectful mother, an ambitious rebel, and later on, a would-be murderer.
Yeah, but once you strip away the propaganda, what do we actually have? We have a child that was used as a bargaining chip and then blamed for all of the mistakes that men made her whole life. Did she make mistakes? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But she played by her own rules later in life, and we absolutely love her for that.
Also, if we want to talk legacy, some of the biggest power players in European history are descendant from her. Like, a lot of people that we've talked about on this show are descendant from her. So basically all the Wars of the Roses, folks. So Richard III, Elizabeth of York, and eventually, like the Tudor dynasty. And through her daughter's lines, she is the ancestor to a lot of the Holy Roman emperors. State of mind of that, yeah.
So let's raise a glass to Isabella of Angoulême.
Yes. All right. Thanks, everybody. Cheers, bitches.
Cheers.
Reggie, I just sold my car online.
Let's go, Grandpa. Wait, you did?
Yep, on Carvana. Just put in the license plate, answered a few questions, got an offer in minutes. Easier than setting up that new digital picture frame.
You don't say.
Yeah, they're even picking it up tomorrow. Talk about fast.
Wow. Way to go. So, about that picture frame.
Forget about it. Until Carvana makes one, I'm not interested.
Car selling made easy. On Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.